questions, by the way. Somebody give me a yes or no question.
I will ask an easy one. You have highlighted the potential of India in the industrial sector. But I wanted to know what is the perception about the ease of doing business in India vis-a-vis other developing countries. For an outsider, what is the perception about the ease of doing business in India if you compare with other developing economies?
Well, I mean, there are other countries where the ease of doing business index pumped out by the MDI, sorry, I'm not thinking properly here, the Global Competitiveness Report that comes out of the Davos Roundtable. There are other emerging markets where the ease of doing business is not that great. I think where you have a substantial amount of competition, or have in the past, is in China. And also in parts of Latin America. It's surprising, actually, on an overall basis, how much improved the ease of doing business indices are in formerly very troubled nations in South America. Even in Mexico, we're seeing improvement there. Of course, Mexico is right on the doorstep of the #1 economy in the world. So if there is efficiency there, if there are ways of cutting through bureaucratic red tape, of doing land acquisition, of putting plants in place next to a contiguous market where you can monitor that in the same time zone and be there in a matter of hours to deal with any problems that might arise. Well, you know, I believe that certainly for the Canadian economy, that's a zone of great competition. Given the Brazilian economy's new policy moves to say, well, you know, we've got to take our hands off some of this infrastructure development that we're doing. And so the Dilma government in August, in mid-August, had a new series of reforms that said, you know, we're just not doing a good job of getting ready for FIFA, getting ready for the Olympics that are coming in 4 years from now. They've got a real time crunch and a burning platform. Well, they're doing that kind of reform. So, you know, if you want to look at the model of government-to-government competition, those economies are putting pressure on India, and there is a need to keep pace with all of that. Now, having said that, none of those economies have the advantages that I've talked about that the Indian economy has. So the process of policy reform might be slower in India, but it still is a huge advantage, just in terms of the sheer scale. My worry is that that scale would cause, you know, the lethargy that can often creep into the policy development. Does that help to answer the question? Is that specific enough? No?
It's okay.
It's okay. It's adequate. I just got a C.
Okay, I can ask you a few quick questions because we're running out of time.
From the common Indian, how I look at this kind of development. An East India company came to India looking for a market, right? The age of colonialism. And what I see right now here again in the world economy, there is a paucity of demand. So every developed economy is looking for markets as well. So for us, definitely we are lacking in this manufacturing sector. We need that input. And I see all the positives of it. I'm not saying that because we can't develop it, we have not been able to develop it from the last 60 years. Our infrastructure is very poor, food gets rotten and everything I understand. But what I see here is that after 20 years, like you never came before, right now there is a demand shortage. So every developed economy is looking for, again, markets, right? You come here, you invest here, that's okay. But what after 20 years if you don't need, again, India as a market? Right? I understand that this is a fixed investment and it will be left here only, right? In the process. But the common Indian worry, while we have seen protests like in West Bengal and for any industrial, the protest comes from because we have a psyche of fear that an organization, an outside organization comes in India looking for cheap labor again. You know, already mentioned demographic dividend is a new word for it, right? So you are getting a labor here, you are getting your markets here, right? But we have our inherent fears that as a nation you are outsiders, right? So you reap the benefits as long as it is beneficial to outside economies and the world economy. I am not, by saying so, I am not saying that I don't look benefits in it. there are huge benefits and we need that. But there are genuine worries that if after 10 to 12, 15 years, the world economy revives, and as you have already said that in American demand cycle is again rising now, so it is again going up and down. So what then? Because there have been instances when investments have been made and they have left. And I also added to that sometimes policy issues may push you to go back, like it has happened with Tata's as well. So there can be problems like that also. And again, I see a very kind of peculiar kind of thinking. You mentioned that nobody can come in the way of businesses when two profit-take, with the psyche of profiteering companies come together. Like Indian capitalist culture is going for profits, European or Canadian capitalist culture is coming for profits here. What about skill development? Again, the question comes is, that is an Indian worry, that is a common man's worry, that you are again here for something, in the process we are getting benefited. So I just wanted to share that view because that is an issue which has to be addressed by Indian government or by business people for a long-term stability in the country.
You raise a very true and very valid point with respect to the historicity of business inside of India. And I believe any company that is coming in has to have their eyes open to the perceptions that Canadians may have about the rapacious businesses of the past. Now, one of the fundamental differences between the way foreign direct investment is done now in comparison with the East India Company days is that we are not talking about a model of complete repatriation of all the benefits back to the home country. I think we have a long enough history now of the benefits being generated inside of the economy actually being used in that economy because this is indeed where the opportunities are. There are many, populations have never happened when it comes to foreign direct investment. Because if it's leaving, then you get charged with hollowing out your economy. If it's coming into the economy, well, those bad foreigners are actually owning our own assets. So which way do you want it? Do you want the money to go out or do you want the money to come in? I think you want both things to happen inside of an integrated trade model of the world. Now, currently, we've got about 5 times as much Indian investment in Canada as we have Canadian direct investment in India. So, the tables are tilted, but if you want a measure of trust, we've been more than welcome of the large Indian firms who wanted to get a piece of the resource action inside of Canada, the manufacturing action inside of Canada. Our doors are open, and the data speak of that. So, if that's a dividend payment on, the goodwill that Canada brings into the Indian economy, I am not speaking as one of those rapacious investors. The reality of the world, the facts speak for themselves. Take my personality and my standing behind my country away from all of this, and let's just look at the facts. Our trade with our traditional customers is flat for a decade. There's no growth between ourselves, the United States, and Europe. No growth. Our growth to emerging markets was 10% compound average a year. Took that share of trade from 4% to 11%, and it's continuing to transform Canadian trade as we speak. So the wonderful things are going on, new things are going on inside of the Canadian economy. Could we keep that going on if we did not have good relations with where it is that we're doing business? If those foreign affiliate sales that we're doing from other emerging markets were actually in some way hollowing out that economy, I don't think we'd stand a chance. We'd have a terrible reputation. People would be blogging and tweeting, and we would be finished. And that's another key difference between East India Company times and now. We've got instant communication and transportation networks that are very efficient. So anyway, we're seeing that aggressive growth inside of Canada. And you know what? We're losing all kinds of market share. What we're excited about is actually getting into the South-South trade continuum. That's the fast-growing part of world trade. Because we might be growing at 10% a year, maybe as high as 15%, because our economy has been growing up. But South-South trade is growing at a compound average rate of 21% a year. So your ability to deal inside of that South-South continuum, the trade that you're already doing there, is the greatest thing that's going on for the Indian economy. So to cut yourself off from that kind of growth dynamic on the international trade side, you have to get over this trust thing and to understand that what is good for those companies, the way that companies operate these days, and the commitment that they have for investing in the countries that they've decided to locate in, is very, very different from those things. It's good for the Indian economy, it's good for those companies. It's a win-win situation. It's a Pareto positive situation. Maybe not optimal, but a Pareto positive situation. It's making us both better off at the same time. So, I don't know, it sounds like I'm a preacher. I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm just trying to take the economic logic and say, there's case after case of how this is working in the rest of the world. And, bit by bit, I think we're all going to get over that. We're all going to develop a higher level of trust for each other. The foreign affiliate sales the U.S. economy is doing compared to its own export is three times the level of exports in Japan as well. If you go in the UK, it's 5 times the level of activity. So there are economies that are way ahead of us with respect to this activity. And trust is a key part of the equation. So I believe we're getting a whole lot better at persuading economies around the world that we're not here to take from the economy, we're actually here to invest in it. So very good question. Thanks for the opportunity to do that.
I think I exhausted all. Yes, I think time is slightly on the high side. So on that note, I think we're grateful to you for very new insights into the world economy and looking at our own economy in a very different perspective. Thank you all, and thank you for coming all the way. Our economy is big, sir.
He's given you this present also because it was the longest question.
Sir, is it possible to take a picture with the students?
Yeah, how about you?
And a special thanks to Professor Godino, Professor Geeta Bajaj, and the Director, Professor Mukul Gupta, for extending all cooperation in organizing this event, and for an opportunity for us to interact with the business leaders of tomorrow, which is all of you. And Professor Neera Jain is not here, but thank you for allowing us to videograph this event. And we have been told it's going to be posted on the website as well as on the Facebook page of the institute. If you want to know more about Export Development Canada, you can visit our website, which is www.edc.ca. It has a wealth of information. Peter Hall's commentary is published not just on India, but on numerous economies of the world. And any specific questions, any specific questions, you can write to me or Lena. We are available after this event. So thank you again. Thanks.
And we are leaving behind our magazine.